Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Thank you for taking out time and being with us today. My name is Mpho Mashashane-Masango. I am with the FSCA within the Financial Advisory and Intermediary Department. And I think I've spent almost 2 decades of my career in the financial services industry, more specifically in the financial advisory space, which is what I'm very passionate about. Today, we're going to be looking closely at what we call a business continuity plan. We'll be looking at what it entails, why is it important to have one in place, and says about it, and the factors that one needs to consider when drafting such an important document. A business continuity plan is basically a document that outlines the processes that will help keep operations running in the event of a disaster. So now a disaster could be any disruptive incident as a result of death, disability, illness, natural disasters, or even things like pandemics. This document basically outlines the processes, on how to deal with the outstanding activities, on how to deal with clients, how to communicate with clients, where and how to transfer such clients. And all this is done to ensure that the clients are continuously being serviced and clients do not suffer any loss due to any disruptions in the FSP or in the business. And the business continuity plan aims to ensure that in a case of any interruption to the FSP's systems and procedures, that any losses are limited, and also essential data and services are preserved as well, and related activities are maintained so that the FSP can resume its activities with the least amount of disruptions, as possible. I think when speaking of a business continuity plan, you can't really speak of that and not talk about the business succession plan as well. We've already established that a business continuity plan prevents a disaster from taking the business and causing it to fail, where we try and limit the losses and resuming activities with the least amount of disruptions. Whereas a business succession planning is now a document or a living document that outlines the transitions of ownership to ensure continuity. So the main objective of succession planning really is to ensure business continuity in the event of death, disability, the retirement, of a KI, as well as the steps that will be taken in these events to ensure that the business continues to operate. And also, the main aim again of business succession planning is to ensure that there's that smooth transition. In your absence, if something were to happen to you, who's going to be taking over? And that person, will they have any signatory powers, And also, in terms of business continuity, are there any agreements in place? And do these agreements address issues maybe that may have an impact, on the financial soundness of the FSP? Things like your directors' loans or members' loans and shareholdings that may need to be paid out as well. So if maybe there's any buy and sell agreement in place, can the FSP afford to execute such an agreement? Can the purchasing KI sustain the license in terms of capacity and products? How would this second in charge get hold of your client files? How will they be able to contact your clients? So those are the type of questions that you ask yourself, when you're looking at business continuity plans. And now, what does the Act says? What does the Act say about business continuity plan? I mean, having a business continuity plan is not just a best business practice, but it's also a legislative requirement, where the Act requires a documented plan to provide for such events. And also the requirement of a business continuity plan forms part of the governance framework that must be adopted and implemented by all FSPs. If you look at Section 20B of the General Code of Conduct, it states that a provider other than a representative who ceases to operate as such must immediately notify all affected clients accordingly and take where reasonably necessary or appropriate in consultation with the clients and product suppliers concerned, reasonable steps to ensure that any outstanding business is completed promptly or transferred to another provider. So we already established that an FSP can cease to operate due to things like ill health, permanent disability, retirement, death, sequestration, or even voluntary lapsing, of a license. So Section 20 talks about immediately notifying all affected clients accordingly. So this can only be done when there's a proper business proper business continuity plan in place that talks to a process of notifying these clients in the events already mentioned. And also, if you look at Section 37E of the Determination of Fit and Proper Requirement, it says that a business continuity policy aimed at ensuring, in the case of an interruption of the FSP systems and procedures, that any losses are limited, the preservation of essential data and functions, and the maintenance of its regulated activities, or where that is not possible, the timely recovery of such data and functions and the timely resumptions of those activities. So a business continuity plan, it should form part of your business risk, of your risk management plan. And I'm not going to go into details in terms of risk management plans, as there'll be a session on that topic specifically. But I guess what's important to note here is that a business continuity plan forms an important part of your risk management plan as an FSP. So now one maybe may ask as to why is it important, for me as the FSP to have a business plan in place? Why do I need to have this document in place? Firstly, you'll be executing your duty to your clients, because remember, treating customers fairly or treating clients fairly. So the client has to always come first. Clients cannot be prejudiced by any voluntary or involuntary disruptions in the FSP. And also, you want to ensure continuity of business when an emergency occurs. It's important, you want everyone to know what to do in a case of an emergency, to try and limit the losses, like we said, and also resume your activities with the least amount of disruptions as possible. And also, you'll be ensuring regulatory compliance. Remember, we said having a business continuity plan in place is not just a best business practice, but it's also a regulatory requirement. So by actually having it in place, you will be ensuring that regulatory and compliance as well. And also you want to plan for when the FSP is incapacitated. This talks to succession planning that we already spoke about earlier, in terms of who will be taking over in case a KI is not able to perform their duties in terms of FAIS. And also you want to be decreasing your potential exposure, which goes back to the risk management planning as well. As an FSP, you want to plan for different types of risks in order to limit your losses as much as possible, and also to make sure that you resume your activities within the least amount of disruption as possible as well. So, and also providing a smooth and orderly recovery from a disaster, because you cannot afford to take forever trying to recover from a disaster. And I guess maybe just by looking at these, you can see that having a sound business continuity plan is important to the operational ability of the FSP as well, which is one of the, maybe I can say, one of the important, fit and proper requirements, for the FSP as well. And also, there are factors that you'd want to consider when drafting a business continuity plan. There's things that you'd want to look at, as the FSP. Also, bearing in mind that each FSP is unique and their situations are unique. So your business continuity plan also should be personalized so that it's in line with your business as well. It should also be relevant, to your FSP. It can't just be a copy, a copy and paste of someone else's business continuity plan. And once it's in place, you have to make sure that you check it regularly, and so that it can remain relevant and up to date as well. So there are a number of factors that I want us to look at, which obviously you as the FSP would need to take these into consideration when drafting your business continuity plan. Firstly is the legal structure of the FSP. As we know, there's different structures. We've got like your sole prop, which I think everybody knows that it's attached, to the key individual. Meaning, if the key individual passes away or any situation occurs that leads the KI not being able to perform their duties in terms of FAIS Act, then the license will lapse and the business will cease to exist. And obviously, in this case, FSCA will need to be informed of the above situation, or the passing away of the KI in this case. And also bearing in mind that the license cannot be transferred to another person. It cannot be inherited, by anyone. So when drafting a business continuity plan as a sole prop, you need to take that into consideration and make arrangements. Maybe let's say with another FSP to take over your book, in case of anything happening to you, and also making sure that your clients are notified, and they also obviously give consent in this, for this transfer into another FSP. And there's another structure as well, which is your partnership. And we all know, in case of a partnership, if one partner dies, the partnership dissolves and a new partnership will have to be formed. And in this case, obviously, the license will need to lapse as well. And the remaining partner, should they wish to continue with the business, they'll probably have to go maybe and join another FSP and be registered as a rep there, so that they can continue to service their clients. But same as with the sole prop, they'll have to make an arrangement, with another FSP. Let's say maybe the partner decides that they still want to continue, with the business. They can go maybe register in another FSP as a rep while they are busy trying to sort out their license. And maybe once that is done, then they can transfer back their clients into their FSP. But all these, they have to be documented in this business continuity plan. Then we have another structure, which is like a company, which is a legal entity, where the business is not attached to the key individual. So in a company with more than one key individual, the passing away of one, or maybe the occurrence of any situation that will lead to a KI not being able to perform their duties in terms of FAIS will not have any effect on the status of the FSP. But where the company only has one KI and one of the above circumstances occurs, then the business will continue to exist, but for this business to continue as the authorized or as an authorized FSP, a new KI or key individual will have to be appointed and authorized as such. So it's important to note that the FSP is not allowed to perform any regulated functions until such time as the new KI is approved by the FSCA. So this same principle will obviously apply to both companies and closed corporations. So just by looking at these different structures, one can see that it's very important that all FSPs have more than one KI, or that there's a formal agreement in place outlining out the terms and the conditions, to say if a KI dies, then this is what will happen to the business and to the clients as well. And another factor that one would want to consider is obviously if there's any buy and sell agreements in place. I think I mentioned this earlier, to say can the remaining KI now, or partner or director afford to execute such agreements, and also when identifying your successor, you want to make sure that they are licensed to provide advice on the products that you offer as well, to provide the same services on all the different product categories, and also that they have the same or maybe easily transferable CRM system, for client records purposes, and that they have the staff to handle the extra work and have documented operational processes, or also have the required skills and the knowledge, to be able to deal with the type of clients that you'll be bringing in. And also you want to make sure that this FSP offers good quality of financial advice. I mean, you don't want to transfer clients to an FSP that is not equipped, to take care of your clients. You'll be doing them a disservice anyway. And also what you'd want to consider when drafting this business continuity plan is a disaster recovery procedure. To say, if, let's say, for an example, your offices had to burn down today, would you be able to continue doing business tomorrow? Or would you lose important information, making it impossible for you to perform your duties? I mean, is there any adequate recovery systems that is tested regularly? So those are the things that you need to consider when drafting a business continuity plan. And also emergency management, things like your pandemics, the COVID-19, are there any set procedures to be followed in the event of an emergency? Let's say, for an example, if one of your reps were to test positive for COVID, what is the process to be followed for the rest of the staff, and how will this affect your business continuity, within the FSP as well? So all these are things that you need to consider when drafting your BCP. And also the data backup plan as well, for issues like cyber crimes. I mean, you have to look in terms of how secure is your data, and how often do you actually back up your data as well, just to make sure the smooth running of your business in case any of the events were to happen. So all these factors, obviously these were just some of the factors. This is what you consider, when you're drafting your business continuity plan. And also I think it's important business continuity plan part of your will and last testament as well. I mean, you're working hard to build your legacy, for yourself and for your family. So you want your family and your clients to have that peace of mind, knowing that you have thought of them and you've made arrangements for them to be taken care of if something were. So we also mentioned that because this is it's a living document, it needs to be it needs to be relevant at all times. So it needs to be updated at all times. So just to make sure that it's in line, with whatever circumstances, that are happening within your FSP. So you want to make sure that your plan is tested. It's up to you in terms of how often you want to test it. Maybe you want to test it every year or every 6 months, or when maybe some situation occurring, then you want to test it. Then it's really up to you, but it has to be tested and updated, just for relevance at the end of the day. Just like you know, how companies will do a fire drill, you know, employees, for their employees to know exactly, you know, what to do in case of a fire. I mean, right now, if you ask yourself, if something were to happen to you right now, will your staff know what to do or who to call, you know, just for that business continuity within your FSP? And also, you know, lessons that we've learned. I mean, COVID-19 has taught us a lot of things. You know, now you can go back to your business continuity plan, to your plan, you know, just to review, you know, and update it, to look at what is it that has worked, you know, and what is it that has not worked. And from there, you can be able to say, okay, what is it that I need to change, or what is it that I need to include, you know, in this BCP or business continuity plan of mine to make it more realistic. So I think I've said a lot about a business continuity plan. If there's any points or to take, you know, from this session, is that a business continuity plan is not just a best practice, but it's a legislative requirement, and it's all about treating your clients or your customers fairly, and obviously the continuity of your business. You know, when there's an emergency or when an emergency occurs, and also it's about you planning for the FSP. You know, if it's incapacitated in any way, in terms of who will inform your clients, who will inform your product suppliers, and I guess importantly as well, who will inform us as the regulator, as the FSCA, in case something were to happen in your FSP. And I think that was all from me. And thank you so much for taking your time and sitting through this webinar. And hopefully this session will assist you when drafting or updating those business continuity plans for your FSPs. Thank you.